Hello, welcome to Floral Juice. My name's John McDonald and today I'm going to show you how to make a novelty design. So we're going to create a hedgehog. Yep, you've heard me right, a hedgehog. Why would you want to do this? Well, this could be just for fun, or it could be maybe as a sympathy item, but we're going to look at how you put this together. So the ingredients I've got a posy pad, and this will be our base. We've got some poly ribbon. This is a waterproof ribbon. I've got some moss. I've got some little eyes and a nose. This is French or hard ruskus, and we've got a block of wet Oasis which we've soaked. And we've just got a few little bits and bobs. I've got some wires for putting on the eyes, and we've got one or two little flowers just to add some detail. So what do we need to do first? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to pleat ourselves some ribbon. Now, we have looked at this in the past with doing like the word mum or the word dad, and it's a simple case of literally kind of coming up and over. So in the other video we show you in detail and we talk about how to do this, so I'm really just going to do this, but essentially you're pleating back to yourself and then away from yourself on top of the under ribbon. So you're coming up and over and then back and over, or over and back on the other side. And I'm just using a stapler here just to hold this. So this is what we would call a box pleat, and it's quite straightforward. So we can see now that we've actually got enough ribbon. So the first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to sculpt the base. So we're going to take a bit of this off. We just don't need it. So that is our base, and then what I've got here is I've got these pins. So this is a pin that we call a German pin. It's got a couple of little dimples on the top, and we can use that for attaching. So what I'm doing is I'm literally lying our ribbon on the edge, and just with the pin coming in at an angle, I'm securing that through. Now we're coming to the end here, so we just want to think, right, how are we going to do this? So I'm just going to cut that last pleat off, and then we can just do that. So this can be at the back of our design. So we've got this ribboned base. Now I'm not going to soak this because we really don't need to soak it at all. It's literally just going to be a base for down below. But what we need to do next is make our hedgehog. So I've got just a simple block of Oasis foam, and I think what we need to do is have a look at the kind of shape that we want. So our hedgehog is going to be this kind of shape, which is a little bit like an egg. So what we're going to do is just kind of come down from above and start sculpting it. So something to think about when you're making any sort of shape is when we put this on a base like this, you actually want to put about 1 centimetre or a bit of a spacer underneath, because you don't want your hedgehog to look like it's sunk into the ground. You want it to look like it's sitting on the moss. So when we put this moss on, we want that to sit high. So it's very easy to cut it and make the shape that you want and then realise that actually it's going to sit too low, which means you could make a spacer, but because we've got this block, we can have this sitting up. So yeah, we'll just work with that. So really, we can just start sculpting, and this is where you kind of have to get a little bit creative. And I think we want to take away a little bit under his chin. Yeah, so The good thing is the Oasis is not expensive when you're using the blocks. So you can have a wee go at this and you can have a wee practice. And if you don't like the shape or you think you've gone too far, then that's fine. You can just start again with another block. So what I'm doing is I'm just using my hand to rub this, and that's taking away all that cut marks and just giving us our little face. So it's quite difficult, I think, with the face to actually find a way to cover that. We don't need to cover that. It's not something that we're going to touch. So we can actually use the foam just to create that base. So now we're going to sit our hedgehog on. Now I'm looking for the back, and we're going to put him slightly off to one side. We've got our hedgehog, we've got our base. This doesn't need to be wet. There's not really going to be any flour. And what we want to do is secure this in. So I'm going to just skewer our little hedgehog in. Yeah, I know, it's cruel, but it's got to be done. And this is just a stick that we've got from an old orchid plant. And that really is going in and making it nice and secure. So, now for the moss. I've got this beautiful flat moss, and this is a great product for creating a woodland feel. Now we can just put that on. Again, I can use these pins. So we can use our mossing pins just to bring that in and secure it. We would want this to be secure. And just work this round. So as you can see, I'm putting that under the edge. And just round the back as well, so you can make the moss fit. If you don't have any moss, then it's the type of thing you'll probably get on a wall at the back of a house, or somewhere where it's kind of damp and cooler is where you're going to find it. But you can buy it. You can buy it in flat boxes. This is moss that we bought in, and it is just good to have. If you're going to think you're going to use it regularly, then have a box. Just keep it outside where it's nice and cool and where it gets wet. Now what we're going to do is we've got this French ruskus, or this hard ruskus, and we're going to use this for creating our scales. So what I'm going to do is just really take this, and we're going to work away from ourselves so that it comes to the back. And with this, you can really break this down. You can break this down into little sections like this. So we want to just work these at the back and in a kind of logical way. So like we've got that tip that's probably quite good for right at the back. Now you could spend a little bit more time and a little bit more care in how you do this, but essentially it really lends itself to this particular animal. So we're just working that in, and I'm just making sure that everything overlaps. And again, we're just building this up. So you can take single ones, you can take ones that have maybe 2 on it. That's fine, that's okay. What we're really wanting to do is build up this texture into the body of our little hedgehog. Now, if I've got ones that have got smaller leaves, we're going to keep that more towards the end so that we can get the scale of the leaves right. So some bigger ones at the back, some smaller ones at the front. But I'm just cutting this down. Now we're using a knife. If you don't know how to use a knife, then we have a video that shows you the best way to do this without hurting yourself. The great thing about a knife is it's nice and fast. So you're not constantly picking up scissors and putting them down, picking them up, putting them down. Right, so now we've kind of got a little bit of volume in the back. We're going to make a little bit more effort here to start putting these in so that they really sit nicely over each other. This is quite therapeutic. You might find some of these leaves are just a little bit too big. That's okay, you don't have to use them all. So we've got this really working quite well. It's interesting actually with the ruskus, I've got two different kind of tones. So that's maybe something that we should take care of. Now what I think would work really well is if you have brown paint. Unfortunately I don't have any brown paint, so that can be into like the Oasis spray floral paint that you can buy. And what I would do is I would then just shade this over and use a dusting of the brown, because the brown is really the colour of our little hedgehog. So as you can see, I'm using these little leaves to really just come in now where the face is. So we're wanting to create that little face and make it quite cute. So yes, I would definitely, if I had brown paint, I would have liked to put that on, but unfortunately I don't have any brown paint. But I think you can tell straight away that this is a little hedgehog. So we're not going to stress about not having the right paint. But I think you can really see that he's starting to come to life. He's starting to look quite interesting. He's got his own little character. Now, as I say, you could have sat him up so that he actually sat up with his little paws. That makes it a little bit more complicated. This is probably the easiest way to do a hedgehog, is to basically stick with the hedgehog in his natural state. I think the fact that he's sitting there makes him look less of a novelty. He looks more of a hedgehog, which is nice. And now what we need to do is add the nose and the eyes. So these you can buy and they come in like a little set. So we can open this up. Now you're probably thinking they're a little bit out of scale, but actually they'll be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a wire. So we're just going around it a couple of times and creating enough of a stem that when we put in his nose, it goes nice and close in. So again, we've got some little kind of ribs on here that we can catch ourselves on the wire. And do the eyes the same way. So really it's like you're wiring a flower a little bit, well maybe a little bit more tricky, but we're not going to see this wire. If you were putting eyes straight onto flowers, you can just glue them on. Because we're not doing that, having this little bit more stem is going to be a good thing. So what we want to do now is we want to just see, where do we want his eyes? And we're making sure that we're not scraping this or marking this in any way. So we've got our little hedgehog, he's on his little base, and what do we want to do now? We just want to add a little bit of flour just to finish this off. Now, as I say, we didn't wet our base, but if we were going to add a lot of flour, then we can pour some water on. So I've got here just a little bit of Sweet William that we can come in with. This is a nice little flower. This is a flower called oxypetalum, which I'd never really seen until just in the last year. And it's quite cute. It's got a bit of a milky sap, which is interesting. And we're just going to add a few of these little chrysanthemums. Now these little chrysanthemums, I've left them on their stem, so they're quite big. But we can make them look more like a little tree or a little plant. So his little, yeah, that's good. And this is the bit that you can really enjoy. You don't necessarily need a lot of details, but you can just enjoy finishing off with your little bits. So it depends what you have. There's not a right or a wrong. There's just, it depends what you've got material-wise. But I think just a few little pieces just set the scene. So because we have put those in, then it would be better actually to wet the base. But we've got a really fun little character. This didn't take long. We've just used the hard ruskus, the Oasis base, and this is how we've put it together. So really by creating this base, we've made it very easy to move him around or to transport him. And I think he's quite fun. He's a nice little hedgehog. And I think you could give this just for a joke or for a laugh, or it depends. It depends what you want to do. But if you know someone who loves hedgehogs, they're going to love this. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you find it interesting. If you'd like to keep up to date with all our videos, then click here to subscribe. Tap that bell and you'll get the notifications that there's a new video out. And thank you for watching.